Hello, Year 4. Welcome to chapter 27 of Wonderscape. Hope you enjoy. The rotten stench of sewage filled Arthur's nostrils as he came to. Blinking in the dim light, everything hurt. Pain throbbed in his chest, his ears ringing, and he could taste blood at the back of his tongue. A thick layer of brick red dust coated his skin and clothes, making him feel like a chicken drumstick dipped in paprika. Slowly he pushed himself to his knees. "Cicely, are you alright?" he asked her, jogging her shoulder. She and Cloud was soaking wet. "Oh," she groaned, rubbing her jaw. "What happened?" A meter away, Wren was propped against the dripping wet sewer wall, her face streaked with blood. Arthur's idea worked, he croaked. Remembering they were about to turn into slime, he clicked his watch. They had 12 minutes to go. Behind him, the hero stirred. Newton coughed loudly as he rose to his feet. Edison was already out, brushing his suit clean. Although their clothes were damp and filthy, they both seemed unharmed, Arthur supposed. Their mimic bodies could withstand the blast better than a human one. "Shh," Wangari hissed as she was helped to her feet by Toms and Jemson. "Can you hear that?" Amerio straightened his mud-splattered turban and collected his sword from a puddle. "What is it?" "Nothing," Wangari replied. "Silence." As the group staggered into the main chamber, Arthur drew his breath. Tiberian Knock was sprawled in a pool of steaming water, and the time key rested on his chest, still attached to the chain around his neck. This army of T-class mimics were frozen in strange positions around the floor, as if they'd been playing musical statues during a yoga class. Arthur noticed the translucent gaze, which usually circled their hoverballs, had evaporated. The blast must have disabled their engines, Edison concluded. Scanning the scene, Newton rubbed his chin. "What do you say to the theory that walls reflected a certain amount of force back inside the chamber?" He and Edison surfaced. Evidence would suggest it felt much more intensely in here than where we were. Edison noted and nodded at Arthur. He glanced. "Ingenuity, my boy, truly." Arthur smiled gingerly, accepting the compliment, even though he had no idea what the two were talking about. When Gary leaned over Tiberian's body and with 2 fingers against his neck, took his pulse. "He's alive," she said. "Just knocked out." She carefully unhooked the time key from the chain around his neck. Amarius Bar strolled out along the mimics, nudging them with his sword to check none were still functioning. Arthur felt a hand on his shoulder and turned around to find Timons Gozan had gathered him. Wren and Cicely together. Light flashed in her dark eyes as she uttered something in Japanese. "What did she say?" Cicely whispered out the corner of her mouth. Wren was blushing. "She said, 'Thank you, you're my heroes.'" Cloud gave a triumphant bark that echoed off the sewer walls, like he might be saying, "I've known they're heroes all along." Arthur felt a lump in his throat. Everything was so overwhelming. He didn't know how to respond. His plan to stop Tiberian had been successful, and now their fates were sealed. They were going to die there. "Come," Wangari Matai said solemnly. "You 3 have saved our lives in the past and the present. I won't allow you to spend your last moments of yours in this dingy sewer." As they plodded toward the entrance of the sewer, Arthur felt numb. He wondered what it was going to be like turning into protoplasm. Would it be painful? Would he even know it was happening? Would everything just switch off like a light in his head? Back in the Ptolemy theatre, everything was wet and dusted with shards of glass. The roof had shattered. Rain had dropped through the empty ceiling onto the laboratory floor, where they covered the black scorch marks, and the ghost had played rodeo with a set of Bunsen burners. Valera and her V-classes were nowhere to be seen, but Milo Hertz was sitting on the edge of an empty bench. When he saw them, his eyes widened. "You're alive!" He jumped and ran towards them. From the number of burns on his arms and face, Arthur guessed he'd been fighting T-classes while they were in the sewers. "What happened? Where's Tiberian?" Milo scanned their faces, searching for injuries. "We've only got a few minutes," Ren mumbled miserably. "Right," Milo said excitedly. "Of course." He rushed into the closed runway and began tapping numbers into the keypad at the bottom. Arthur wondered what they had been gotten into, until they saw Mary Shelley stomping across the room towards them. Her sticky yellow skin was flush red with a huge ruby necklace around her neck was missing. Arthur remembered she had abandoned them just as Tiberium had arrived, but he didn't have the energy to be annoyed. It was the ghost, Mary Shelley said breathlessly, reaching to her pocket of her dress. They had it all along. I only realized when Milo mentioned it, that no one else could have possibly gained access. But you see, the ghost can pass through walls. Arthur blinked as she pulled out an obsidian key, time key, and passed it to Milo. Confused, Arthur glanced at Cloud, who still had the time key dangling from his collar. The other prototype, Arthur had just seen Wonderscape removed from Tiberius Knox's neck, which could only mean one thing. Is that the third time key? He exclaimed. His tongue went leaden. How did... Mary Shelley gestured to an empty decollage, and Arthur collected what had happened. She'd given the ghost her necklace in exchange. Chapter 28, coming soon.